does social then become underpriced? Because it feels like a very cluttered space.
Because I think that they're not spending it well.
Okay. So it's not whether you're putting your money there, it's how you are maximizing it, optimizing it.
Do you know what the scariest sentence I face every day being the CEO of this agency? Hey Gary, good news, we now spend 60% of our money on digital.
Why is that the scariest?
Because I know it's old digital. I know it's bad social.
Okay.
They take it from here. Good news, we're 71% digital. But that's like me saying, good news, I play basketball. It doesn't mean that I'm a professional basketball player. And so you're absolutely right. Where even in the things they get right, they often get it wrong. I'll explain. I think especially in Asia, this is a strength of Asia, very much dictated by the influence of China. KOL work here, there's a bigger commitment to it. I would argue that Southeast Asia, Asia in general, has a better understanding of KOL work than Africa, than EMEA, than the Middle East even, and even than America. The problem is underpriced attention. Too many brands rush after the same influencers and then they become overpriced.
True.
So, I think that, I think you're right, they are allocating more, but again, remember this. When they allocate more, a lot of times they talk about the media, not the creative. So that's number one. Number two, most of the way that traditional media agencies are buying social media for their clients is based on reach and frequency, which is not the way to buy social. So they may be allocating more money to Meta or Instagram or TikTok, but if they're just running for impressions at the lowest cost and not combining the creative against it and not trying to win on relevance at scale against many different consumer segmentations, they've used a fork as a knife.
So what is to say that influencers are not going to become the next creatives? Just bypass the creative agency and go direct.
Because the influencers are too smart.
Please expand.
Why would you want to have clients when you can just do one-offs? I started an influencer agency in 2014 called The Grape Story. You can Google it. We've done it for over a decade. We're 10 years into this. I don't see Logan Paul running to work at AKQA.
Fair.
That's why.
Okay.
But by the way, they deserve a bigger part of the allocation. And by the way, my argument is that creative agencies should get less money. My argument is media agencies should get less money because it's overpriced. And so that's why influencers are getting, if brands were capable of making great social media creative, they wouldn't outsource it to influencers, they would do it themselves. Why rent when you can own? Creative agencies aren't capable of it yet. They will be. It's how I built my dad's business. It's how I grew up being a marketer. We had a small family business. We didn't have a lot of money. And I needed to grow it. And it wasn't gonna be happening by overpaying for distribution and creative. It was gonna be the reverse. At the level that we now play at as a global company, I'm really humbled that you're deciding to focus on this because I think you're right. Underpriced attention really means modern comms planning. It means you allocate your media to places that the media is a good value in return for what you get. It also means that you have to drive down the cost of creative in filling that distribution. It can all, right? If you take the most expensive thing, a Super Bowl, you could pay less for talent, you could pay less for production, but the media is still gonna cost you $7 million. I actually think it's underpriced attention.
I know, I was gonna ask you that.
So we'll get to that later. Outside of things like the Super Bowl, outside of things like a proper football team's jersey logo, outside of that, outside of influencers, the predominant scaled underpriced attention in the world is based on biddable platforms. But not programmatic, because that eliminates the consumer behavior of consuming it. It's done on social. Because in social, what is unique for now, and it's not as good as it was 10 years ago, but it's still better than the alternatives, people are consuming a lot more of the content in social. Of course, today we go faster through the ads in our feed than 10 years ago, but we're still seeing it. It's different. So much of advertising is interruptive. with social, it's kind of there with it. It's not like you're being interrupted. It's all so, and if
it's done right.
If it's done right, you don't even realize it sometimes. Which is, when a commercial is done right, you don't think you were still watching your show. When a print ad is done right in a magazine, you don't think you're still reading the article. When an ad in social is done right, you think you're still consuming social. That is a profound insight. We have become a very major player in media because we're very good at planning and executing social media buying. Social media buying is completely zero until people start putting money into it. Just like Google AdWords, right? In Asia, we do not have the same dynamic that we have in the US, where we have very well-funded venture capital-backed startups that only live on underpriced attention. So all the startup ecosystem that becomes the Warby Parkers, that becomes the Allbirds, that becomes the brands that we all hear that are new, including things like Tesla and other things, like a lot of them are built on modern communication platforms, right? So in America, there's a huge underpriced attention opportunity based on modern comms planning, which really means buy biddable stuff, which really means social, though we're starting to see more connective TV and streaming opportunities. But in Asia, you don't have the same level of competition. So who's winning in Asia are KOLs, more so than even startups. If big brands in Asia started to get serious about allocating more money to social media dollars to the platforms, they would find an incredible arbitrage. The problem is, there are no meaningful creative agencies that know how to make creative for the ads. And so we have this really interesting juxtaposition in the ad world where first you have to believe it or to know it's true. And then second, even if everybody agreed with me when they read this, they don't know where to turn for the creative. Because creative agencies are not built for this. They're built for above the line. And so I think that's why we've been able to make so much noise in the marketplace. We are built for both those things. It's still early for us, but common sense is starting to become a bigger part of the conversation. And I think people really feeling the effects of it. And I think underpriced attention or modern comms planning, if you talk about it more professionally, is gonna become a bigger and bigger topic.
There are so many brands who are now starting up and they don't know what exactly to spend on.
Social.
Going down this road.
Social.
Yeah, but social is so cluttered as well.
So what are you gonna do, waste money? Okay, so social's cluttered, what are you gonna do? A television commercial? A radio spot? Direct mail? All that stuff's more expensive. Even in the competitive landscape, you still get, and I would actually argue, and this is, to be frank, we got very fortunate. The TikTokification of all of social media has really helped our thesis. Because now, you're right, it is cluttered. And the reason I'm going here is I say to myself, man, if we had this exchange 4 years ago, there's a really powerful argument for you to say, look, it takes a lot of money and time and energy to get 1 million fans on a platform, right? Most brands can't even get 1 million followers. And then as we all know, 4 years ago, if you had 1 million, you get 200,000 impressions, 80,000 impressions, whatever. Today, your first post on TikTok, you could have 0 followers and you can get 100,000. Facebook, back to underpriced attention, this is what we really do well. Right now for Asia, here's a free one for everyone reading. Facebook Reels are incredibly underpriced. But who's thinking about Facebook Reels? You know, everybody in traditional agencies barely actually care about social, they'll check the box. And then social cool agencies, they don't want to do Facebook Reels. So, you know, there's these incredible arbitrages of distribution. And then once you recognize them, understanding that a video or picture has to be different on Facebook Reels than Instagram Reels, different than a TikTok, because the temperament's different, the consumer's different, the product's slightly different. That's a level of complexity that people have not signed up for. I would argue one of the biggest reasons social has not been taken serious enough by the best creative agencies in the world is because it's too hard. Not because it's completely like, I don't think it's cool. It's because it's harder. It's a lot easier to come up with a tagline and make a video and put on TV.